Okay.
Okay.
The Dale Show.
Ooh.
That's
Ooh,
the quiet
sultry
version.
Yeah.
Because if you were listening last week, I screamed the Dale Show and my kid went nuts and had to come see what was going on.
Oh
So,
man.
and Andrea's trying to put her to bed, so it's going to be a sultry, quiet one.
The sultry Dale Show.
So, and oh yeah, you were saying I didn't tell you what we were going to do
You
this week.
did not tell me what we're talking about this week.
Which is good.
Coming in blind. Ear blind?
Because I changed it last second. Okay.
All right.
Here's the story of what happened.
Okay.
So I was like thinking about Tartaria. And I was like, we're not going to talk about Tartaria, so I don't even want to explain it. I'll save that all for next episode.
Okay.
So I did all this research and I'm like, Tartaria this, Tartaria that, blah, blah, blah. So if you're interested in Tartaria, tune in next week for episode 41. But then I was listening at work. I listen to podcasts and I was listening to Andrew Schultz's podcast, Flagrant, and he had Billy Carson on. And like usually Andrew Schultz Flagrant podcast is just they talk about like what they did and like stand-up comedians and stuff. But then they had this like crazy alien guy on who was talking about pyramids, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, wait, he talks about stuff that I covered in like this episode 2.
Yeah.
What is
the very early
for?
Yeah, the very early Dale Show episode.
And then like he was talking about stuff I covered in human hybrids, and I was like, oh shit. And then he even touched on stuff I talked about we talked about in Alien War, and I was like, that's quite a coincidence. And I was like, huh, that's cool. And then he was like talking about all the stuff about pyramids, and I was like, whatever, like that's cool, but I'll just go back to and then Joe Rogan had this guy on. I gotta pull up my notes. I didn't take notes. There won't be any
we're freestyling this one. Okay. Yeah,
but I did take down. Okay, I took down a couple notes.
Okay.
I lied. There's a tiny bit of reading.
Okay.
This much reading, not like last time.
Yeah.
So on Joe Rogan, he had Christopher Dunn on, who is this like old school, not old school. He's just like an old guy who started out as a machinist.
Okay.
And then he was like an engineer, and he got all interested in the pyramids. So he started talking about the pyramids from like an engineer perspective.
Yeah.
And he's written books and stuff. And then he started talking about wowie dowie stuff about the pyramids. And I was like, you know what? I want to talk about the pyramids. That's what I want to do.
Okay, awesome. Okay, that's cool.
So this is going to be an update episode because it's not like researched heavily. I'm just going to talk about what they talked about on the podcast, but it's going to be more conversational.
Okay.
And it's going to add information that I didn't actually have when I did my episode 2 about the pyramids. Oh, and another update, totally unrelated, but I want to mention it now that we're doing an update episode. So do you know who Diana Pasulka is?
No.
So she wrote this book, American Cosmic, and she was a theologian, and so that just means she studies religion.
Yeah, religion.
And then she got invited to the Vatican or something to like research their alien books they had there. And then like, so she wrote this book, American Cosmic, and it talks about like all this wicked alien stuff. But anyway, she was on Joe Rogan because she wrote another book. And remember when we had what was it, Quantum Immortality, when we did that episode?
Yep, I do remember that one.
And I was talking about how
that one actually blew my mind. How like literally I just couldn't figure it out.
Remember how there was like this I was talking about, hey, maybe like past cultures had this oral tradition so that it would stand up to like timeline shifting and stuff. She was talking about how she was like privy to some high up meetings with like the like high up. I can't remember their names. It was a while ago, but the high ups in like UFO and government stuff. Okay. And she was like, they have these meetings called pens down meeting when no one's allowed to write down anything.
So kind of like research for the Dale Show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
My research for this show.
This is a pens down episode. But so I was like, she was saying that it was like, so nobody could like write anything down and keep it secret. But I was like, whoa, that kind of lines up with what I was talking about with the oral traditions and shifting timelines. Because if you shift timelines, stuff that's written down will change.
Yeah.
Well, but it'll, so if like you write your name in a certain way and you shift timelines, it might change.
It might change,
But
right?
if you have it in your
It
brain
can't.
goes with you.
Yeah, your brain comes
Yeah.
with you, so you don't lose that. You don't lose the continuity, if you will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So that was just what I wanted to touch on, was
Interesting.
that I just wanted to say, add further fuel to the fire
The,
of,
of time shift.
yeah,
Yeah. So
time
it's
shift.
interesting that you mentioned the pyramids, because my son, he's 14 now. He asked me the other day. He's like, "Hey, what do you know about the pyramids?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"What do you mean? What do I know about the pyramids? Not fucking much, I guess." I don't. Have you seen? Here, let me introduce you to what I would call a DVD collection of all the seasons of Stargate. There we go.
Nice.
What's a DVD? He would say.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh.
but he asked
Oh.
me, he asked me like about the pyramids. He's like, how did they get built? And I'm like, so A, I don't have an engineering degree, and B,
Mhm.
I my friend is Dale, so I don't know how the pyramid. There's several theories on how the pyramids were built. So
Yeah.
I gave him sort of the breakdown of like what I thought. Like, A, there's some ancient engineering that we don't know how to do.
Mhm.
B is the theory that we were given in high school about like how they used they're built over many decades, hundreds of years even, using like a roller system. You remember
Yeah.
those diagrams in our notebooks,
Yeah.
sorry, in our textbooks, about how they have like, basically it's slave labor, and
Yeah.
they're rolling these blocks, and they're putting the blocks up, and then they somehow did like a skim coat on the outside to make them flat or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
You remember the books? Like that's what they
Oh
said. They said
yeah.
basically, and there's like this picture of a dude in like a Anubis mask, like whipping slaves, and they're rolling shit up they're rolling like
Yeah.
blocks, like huge stone blocks on these
Mhm.
logs, and there's no way that's how it was built.
Oh,
But that's
you
sort
want
of
to
how it
know
explained.
the quickest way
And
to
then
debunk that theory?
there's
Is
no
the
fucking
ramp.
trees anywhere near there.
The ramp you would have to build to
Yeah,
bring material would
yeah, it was
have
like
to have more
900
mass. Yeah.
kilometers long. Yeah,
It
totally.
would have
Yeah,
more mass than the pyramid itself.
yeah, exactly.
So it
So
would
like
actually be a bigger feat of engineering
to build
to
the
build the
ramps to,
ramp.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So like but I remember that's what they taught us in school,
Yeah.
is that they did this by slave labor and ramps.
Oh yeah, dude. This Billy Carson guy on Flagrant, he
Yeah.
said that they teleported shit.
So this is the like, so that was the other thing that I told him. The third thing is aliens. And then I showed him
Mhm.
the picture of the guy from the Discovery Channel. Aliens.
Yeah.
Look,
Aliens.
not saying that this could have been done
Mhm.
by aliens, but it was aliens. So
Yeah.
that guy, he's all orange. I don't know. You know
Oh
the guy.
yeah.
He's
And
got a Greek name.
I think the biggest stone that they know of, because there's still stones in the center of the pyramid they
Yeah,
weren't
yeah,
able to measure, but the biggest stone in the Great Pyramid weighs 140,000 pounds.
yeah. And that's so 140,000 pounds is what, like divide that by two. It's
70 tons.
70 tons, 74 tons,
No,
72 tons,
70,000 tons.
70,000 tons. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I
Like,
don't,
so I used to work in the mining industry a long time ago, and
yeah.
I've seen the haul trucks, and they carry like, maybe 10 tons at the most.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, and that truck is the size of a house. Like, Jesus Christ, man, come on.
Hmm.
They just went ahead and rolled that block on up a 900 kilometer ramp to put
Yeah.
it in the center of a pyramid.
I think somebody was, I can't, this is more non-research, but somebody was talking about our best cranes right now can
Yeah.
maybe lift one of those heavier stones, but it takes 2 weeks to set up each lift because you have to like do all
Yeah.
this
Well,
stuff.
safety prep and everything too, right?
Well, plus if you lift two in the same day, your machine's going to explode.
Right. You wear
Like
and
all the
tear,
height.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the cables get strain on them, and then the slack gets pulled out of them and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. And there's something like 2 million fucking stones in the pyramid.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, and then not to mention even like the metal fatigue on the like, and I know, remember we talked about this. I don't know if you and I talked about this on a podcast. I'm pretty sure, or I read this, or I watched a documentary on it. How
Yeah.
steel has gotten worse over time because all the good steel's gone.
Oh yeah, I
Have
think
we
we
talked
might
about
have
that
touched
before?
on that.
Yeah, it was like World War
Yeah,
II. They mined most of the actual good ore for steel, and it's
yeah.
basically the rest of it now is all alloyed. It's all crap. Like it's all like it's got all these impurities in it.
Hmm.
So like there's no more like pure steel anymore. And back in the day, there was pure steel, but I don't think that applies to Egypt because I don't remember them talking a lot
Yeah.
about steel. It was a lot of clay and gold and bricks and shit like
Yeah,
that.
they only had copper.
Copper,
Supposedly, if
thank
you
you. Yeah,
go
that was what it
by
was.
our
Yeah,
archaeologists, they only had access to copper. But
copper, right.
one of the other problems with steel right now is basically all of construction and all of manufacturing is just whoever can do it the cheapest. And most of the steel you see nowadays is comes from China, which
Right.
wouldn't be a problem if they were like digging up the ore, but it's just they buy all of our scrap
Recycled
steel
steel, yeah.
and melt it down and then like sell it back to us and stuff.
Yeah, so it's like it's gone through those cycles of like it's been heat treated and it's
Yeah.
now more brittle than it was when it was first
Hmm.
made, right?
Yeah. And then
You
like,
would know about this. You're a welder. You deal with
oh
steel all
yeah,
the
and
time.
it's like the carbon, like they add carbon to it to make it harder and stuff, and it's all wonky
Is
donkey,
that
man.
the secret to getting it harder? To add carbon
Yeah,
to it?
yeah, exactly. Plus, it's just like you said, they probably ored all the good steel, all the good iron
Yeah, all
ore.
the pure iron ore, right?
Yeah, right in World War II. But now it's like to even get it that like you would have to like have a like way longer foundry process.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure you could
Yeah.
make steel
But
good
it's
again, but it
too
would
labor
take,
intensive. It's too time
yeah,
consuming. It
exactly.
costs too much money to make it. And you can make steel that will be passable enough
Yeah.
to do things with, right? Like
Hmm.
cars aren't made out of steel anymore. They're mostly plastic, right?
Yeah. But that's also so that they're lighter and you can have less horsepower to drive
Yeah,
them
totally.
around and they don't kill each other as much,
Yeah.
or you don't kill each other in cars as much as you used to.
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
back to pyramids. Let's go. I want to hear more
Oh
about
yeah.
this because like
Um
I'm always fascinated by like Egyptian stuff and by the pyramids
okay.
especially. Right. So tell me, lay it on me, brother. Let me hear.
Before we get into it, I just wanted to say my personal theory I've been dabbling with is that they were built with like sound shamans. Like I feel like they would like somehow they would like make a noise and they would have a thing on a block. And you know how like on an air hockey table it kind of
Yeah, it
floats?
floats a little bit. Yeah.
If you like vibrate the stone or whatever, you could probably slide it easier. I don't know. To me, it has something to do with like sound and vibrations and stuff like that. But
Yeah. I
I don't
mean,
know.
that's I guess I never even thought of it of that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, the air hockey tables is something that's it always fascinates me. Like I know what it is, I
yeah,
know what's happening, and it's still like weird and fascinating to me that it
yeah.
hovers.
I guess that's like people would say that's wrong because that's just air coming through the table and lifting it up. But
Yeah,
I didn't mean that the air would be
no, I
lifting
know
the
what you mean.
stones. It would just
It would
be
be
like the same
vibrations instead.
effect. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So like they maybe had a sled that vibrated. I don't know. Whatever. Okay. So the thing I wanted to talk about, Billy Carson was saying, and this did I say his name was
Chris
Christopher
Dunn.
Dunn?
Yeah.
Christopher Dunn. They were both saying that the pyramids were power plants. And like in my episode 2, I said that one of the possible reason or uses for the pyramids was a power plant, but I didn't know as much of the stuff as these guys talked about.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read some of what Billy Carson was saying on the Flagrant podcast. He said, when you have running water under magnetic crystallized granite, you get physiostatic electricity. The irons push up into the Grand Gallery. And I just want to point out that the Nile used to run a lot closer to the pyramids.
Okay.
So if
Oh,
there was
right, but
an,
it's moved over time.
yeah, if there was an aqueduct or aquifer,
Yeah.
which basically is porous rock underneath the ground filled with water. So they're saying he was saying that there might have been pools of water running underneath the pyramid,
Okay.
and that's actually one of the other theories on how they built the pyramids was they had flotillas to get the rocks there
Okay.
on the Nile River because it used to
So
run beside.
that's
Yeah.
more plausible than the ramp and log situation
Well, that would only get you the rocks to the pyramid. It
to
wouldn't
the
actually
base,
push
right?
them up the side.
Yeah.
So you'd still have to have the ramp. Okay. So yeah, so the physiostatic electricity and irons are pushing up into the Grand Gallery, and as it's going up to the Grand Gallery, there are resonating rods along the like chamber that goes up to the Grand Gallery, and this would step up the electricity as it goes in. I can't remember what that's called. It's not a transformer, but it's like
Uh,
maybe like it's something to like amplify or something. It's just like we actually
the transformer would be right because you're transforming vibration into power. Where you're trying
Oh,
to
okay.
like because a transformer in like electrical appliances, it translates
Yeah.
electricity into energy, right?
Mm. Okay, but this there's like I thought there was like a different term for when you like take a little electricity and you amplify it.
Oh, like a resonator.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe that's like he was saying that there was there's like the rods aren't there anymore, but he's saying there's like divots in the hallway of the going into the grand gallery, and he's saying
Yeah.
there was probably rods in there that would do that. And these resonating walls would step up the electricity as it goes into the grand gallery. And then the ions that were moved into the king's chamber as it stepped up created fusion and sent electricity through the apex of the pyramid. The Great Pyramid would create electricity and shoot it out, and there would be magnetized granite crystal obelisks. So it's basically you have the magnetized granite crystals that are like in the pyramid. You have them outside the pyramid in these
Yeah.
like, and they would basically just be like batteries or whatever that would catch the ambient electricity. And then they would wire tools and stuff up to these obelisks, and then they would get power for lights and tools and stuff.
Okay.
And it's this is actually the same system Tesla was trying to do with his giant Warden Cliff Tower. Did you ever read about that?
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but
Yeah. So
yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
last things, because Tesla by the end of his life, he was just broken in the poverty
Yeah, yeah, he
house and
was like, well, and
in
he
love
wasn't
with a
he
pigeon or something.
wasn't there like a whole thing where like basically Edison was putting him out of business, like it was
Yeah.
and debunking him like actively.
Oh yeah, there was like a
Yeah,
war
there's a war, yeah, between the
because
two.
Edison wanted to use direct current and
Yeah,
Tesla was doing actuating current, and
yeah,
actuating current was way safer, but direct current like you get electrocuted and stuff.
yeah.
So anyways,
Sorry,
so
off topic, my bad.
yeah, no, but like one of the last things Tesla was gonna do was he was building this giant Tesla tower,
Yeah.
and it was supposed to like he didn't tell anybody what it was for. He was just doing this Tesla tower. And the guy from JP Morgan, I can't remember his name, but anyways, he was like, "Hey, what are you doing with this tower?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to give free electricity to everybody." And the guy was like,
Oh
"Oh,
no, you're not. Yeah,
no, you're not." And then they demolished it and pulled his funding and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right. It was
so
something
that was
about
going
being
to
able to
happen.
pull for, energy out of the wavelengths in the sky. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's basically how. And the other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit this here there was oh god, I can't remember his name. Anyway, there was a guy on who's the aliens guy who said he worked at an aliens place in the
Oh
80s.
fuck. Yeah. Oh,
This is
that's
what
gonna
happens
bug
when
me.
I
There
don't
was a
take
whole
notes.
documentary. I watched a whole
Yeah,
documentary on Bob
Bob
something.
Lazar. Bob
Bob
Lazar.
Lazar. Thank you. There we
So
go.
anyway,
Yeah.
like I covered this in episode 2 of the pyramids or whatever,
Yeah.
but Joe Rogan was asking Bob Lazar about Tesla's free power and stuff, and if it was the same, and if it would have happened. And Bob Lazar said that would have been the worst thing that happened because if you have just like floating ambient electricity like that, it would just fry all our circuit boards. And basically, we would have never gotten past technologically, we would have never gotten past like tube amplifiers and stuff. Like we wouldn't have had to
Right.
have like had silicon chips and all that stuff. So one of my weird specific theories I'm working on is because something broke the pyramids, and Christopher Dunn on Joe Rogan, if you listen to it, he's talking about how there's evidence of explosions and stuff that like
Mhm.
blew apart some of the mechanisms of the pyramid. And
Like
one of my
internally inside
yeah,
the
like
pyramids. Okay.
he's saying that in the king's chamber there's this box
Yeah.
and part of it is like blew off so hard it flew across the room and put a dent in the granite.
Interesting.
So he was
Okay.
saying that somebody put an explosion in there. And then Billy Carson on Flagrant was saying that there was this like Egyptian war and it gets all like super crazy awesome. And he was saying that the pharaohs inherited this like Egyptian power and stuff. And they're like, it was supposed to be like some lineage where they would only get it for like a certain amount of time and then they'd have to pass it on. But then one of the pharaohs didn't want to pass it on. So they had a war where he like would keep it and stuff. And then
Right.
like he was saying that was why there was like explosions and stuff in there. But
Weird.
my personal thing I'm daddling with is in the, like in the 50s It's basically that's when tube amps quit, right?
Yeah,
Like,
totally. Well, not really. I mean, they still use them for guitars and stuff.
what?
I have a tube tattoo on the inside of my arm.
Oh, nice.
But
But
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
like the radio and television technology stopped using it.
that was when we got more advanced electricity
Yeah,
or electronic stuff. But that's also the time that aliens started showing up.
that's true. Yeah, it was the 50s
So
and 60s, right? The Roswell and everything.
maybe there was some sort of ambient like electricity going around, and it also acted as a shield against aliens, because if we can't have like technologically advanced stuff because it would fry out maybe the alien ships. So maybe maybe what happened with the pyramids, this is just me spitballing and getting
Yeah.
wild, but maybe the pyramids also used to have be like the basically like the shield generators of Earth, so
Okay.
aliens couldn't get in because they would get fried through the like electromagnetic thing. But maybe they got blown up so that the aliens or whoever could come in.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then so okay, so I want to get back to talking about how these are power. So that like the whole electricity and water running underneath the thing, that was all Billy Carson.
Okay.
But then you have Christopher Dunn. Am I like, because I feel like I'm kind of like just all over the place. Just let
No,
me
no, no.
know if you're following
No,
along.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. So Christopher Dunn, he's the engineer guy and he's on Joe Rogan. And what okay, so in the Great Pyramid, there's the Grand Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, and the King's
Mhm.
Chamber. For we'll just keep it simple.
Okay.
So the Queen's Chamber has these shafts that go to it, but they stop 5 inches before they actually reach the Queen's Chamber. And in
How
between the Queen's Chamber and the shaft, there is some where I wrote what
what
down.
size are the how big are these shafts approximately?
I don't know how big the
Did they
ones
describe it?
are in the Queen's one, but he explained the one in the King's one because it's crazy. So
Okay.
the King's Chamber one basically goes from the King's Chamber and goes out and then points at some fucking star cluster, and it's on
Okay.
purpose.
Yeah.
And
Like a receiver
yeah, or a
or a
sender.
launcher. Yeah.
So Billy Carson was saying that the aliens would send out microwave radio transmissions through hydrogen atoms. And Christopher Dunn, the engineer guy on Joe Rogan, was explaining that the microwave of a hydrogen atom, like the wibby wobby of
Yeah.
so basically a
The
microwave
wave.
isn't. I'm just trying to like not confuse people. So like when you hear microwave, you think of that thing in your fucking kitchen.
Yeah.
Basically, what a microwave means is it's a wave that goes up and down really fast.
Yeah.
And so technically, all of our transmissions through our cell phones and everything are
Our
actually
voices are microwaves.
microwaves. Yeah, because they just, I don't know what, when it stops being a microwave and just becomes a wave, but microwave just means it goes up and down real fast. But so what was happening was the distance you need for, I don't know what he was talking about, but he said the distance for a microwave of a hydrogen atom to go up and down is 3.9 inches. And the shaft in the King's Chamber is 4 inches.
Weird. Okay.
So what he's saying
It was
is,
just enough room for the wave to
yeah, it
go
was
through.
just enough room for the wave. So you basically like, and in the shaft itself, it has like some bends and stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's like little bumps and stuff. And he's saying that was kind of like tuning implements
Right.
so that you could control what's happening with the
What the
wave.
how the frequency moves through the shaft.
Yeah. And so Billy Carson was saying that whoever built the pyramids was a breakaway society,
Okay.
like a breakaway civilization. Like basically, like when you send out a breakaway civilization would be if Earth had a breakaway civilization, we'd set up like a generational ship and they would go out into space and hypersleep, or they would just like
Oh, right.
repopulate on the ship and then the next train the next generation and stuff. So Billy Carson was saying that that's what the pyramids were.
Okay.
And then so the reason that this comes into terms with the shaft in the King's Chamber is this breakaway civilization had to send messages back to the star cluster where they came from, and they like send microwaves through hydrogen atoms since hydrogen is the most popular substance in
The
the
most, yeah,
universe.
like the most abundant and easiest to
Yeah.
harness. Yeah. Okay.
Like if you think about it, the sun is basically just
It's burning
hydrogen
hydrogen. Yeah.
gas. Yeah.
Yeah.
So every star is hydrogen. So there's just, of all the elements that are in the vacuum of space, hydrogen is the most. So
Yeah.
you would have the most luck sending like a message. Like when
Yeah.
you send radio waves through Earth, like through the air on Earth, they're not just going through thin air. They're like resonating through the atoms in the air.
Gotcha.
So you would have like, you basically, it would be like the message. Okay, this is how I'm interpreting it. Then just let me know if you think I'm wrong. So the way, so what they do is the microwaves move, like manipulate the hydrogen atoms,
Yeah.
and so then that those hydrogen atoms kind of like, it's kind of like
It's
the
like
atoms are saying telephone, and there's
yeah.
like passing the message. So if you're like trying to pass a message to a different star cluster, you're going to get the most luck with hydrogen because there's the most hydrogen
The
in
most hydrogen
space.
available. Right.
Yeah.
I gotta take a break. 1 second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry, we just took a break because Jeff had to take a break.
Had an
Um,
emergency.
I what were we talking about exactly? We are
So we're
talking
talking about
about,
the amount of hydrogen in space,
oh
like
yeah,
the
and
free
how it was a
hydrogen available, and like how it's the most abundant element in the cosmos, which makes the most sense. The
cosmos,
cosmos,
the
which makes the most
cosmos.
sense for it to be.
Yeah, that. Oh yeah, and that's why the aliens, or not the aliens, the breakaway civilization that. And the wild thing is, like, this whole thing I felt like was kismet because these two guys are talking, and Billy Carson specifically, because he started talking about the Anunnaki and stuff. I was like, hey,
Right.
I talked about that in my
I talked about that.
podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was
Totally.
like, hey, that's something I know about. And then he was
Yeah.
like, and then he started talking about like Gnosticism. I was like, I know about
You're
that.
like, we did a whole podcast on that.
And then I was like, just daydreaming that he was just listening to my podcast,
Yeah.
and like going through the episodes. So, what did else did I want to say? Oh yeah, and then Billy Carson was also talking about the alien human hybrid thing. Like he was
Yeah.
saying that, like, the breakaway civilization, like he was basically reframing the Anunnaki, which is basically, which I said basically like 100 times
That's
today.
okay. It happens. So I had
Yeah.
a girlfriend's father once say to me, instead of saying basically because it makes you sound dumb, say, oh my god, now I forget. Oh crap, sorry, I ruined
Therefore,
it. No, no, no. Instead of saying basically, say essentially, and then that will make you sound
oh,
smarter. So when you say instead of saying basically, say essentially, it's effectively the same, but it
you know
makes you
what?
sound smart.
I'm
Essentially, this is what happened.
devil's advocate here.
Yeah,
I would be more annoyed if someone said essentially because it has more semblance in the word.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally.
So I'd rather
It's
hear basically
yeah.
because it's anyways. That's
And neither here nor there. I'm sorry.
basically
Go
me
for it.
dabbling into my slight autism about
That's
words.
okay. A touch of the tiz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so essentially,
Yeah. There you
the
go. See,
Anunnaki is a race of aliens that come on a planet, but he was saying that the breakaway civilization were here,
we're here.
and they
Yeah.
took like some sort of human hominids or whatever, and then like fused that one DNA, so there's only 23 pairs. Like if you want to go nuts
It
into that,
gets. It's
go
a good one.
back and listen to that episode me and Jeff did. It's definitely worth your time
Yeah.
because it's great stuff. So he was saying, yeah, I totally lost. Got anyways,
Anunnaki.
got sidetracked. Yeah, so he was saying that the Anunnaki and the breakaway civilization and stuff. And then in the midst of all this, I actually did a TikTok about it. I was like,
Oh, I
what if
saw
the
that.
Tower of Babel
Yeah.
was actually a pyramid?
Huh.
Because when we hear about the Tower of Babel, like I read in my TikTok, I read the Bible verse. I can read it for you again if you want.
Yeah. Sure. Let's hear it.
Okay,
Because if for those of you who
I
haven't
got my
seen
Bible
Dale's
right here.
TikTok, it's basically this, but it's shorter.
Yeah, and what happened was, like, oh yeah, when I started this podcast, I started listening to the audio book version of the Bible, and I
Yeah.
basically
I remember.
made
Yeah.
it 5 or 6 books before I flamed out because it's pretty boring. But
Yeah.
Genesis fucking slaps. So everybody go read Genesis because that's where all the aliens and shit is. Okay, and
You
also,
mentioned theology earlier, and I remember in
yeah,
university for English, I had to take like a theological literature class, or I don't know if I had to
Yeah.
take it or I took it anyway, and we read the King James Bible first
The
few
whole book?
books. No, the first few books.
Oh,
It was only a one semester course.
the
The
first five, the Torah?
yeah. So,
Yeah.
and I just remember it was like I was like
Ooh.
just dry,
Like the
dry.
Moses stuff? Like it's
Yeah, the
like,
Moses stuff, and the he
oh
begat
yeah.
this, and like the birth of everything. And you're just like,
Yeah.
okay,
Some of the Moses stuff is pretty
yeah.
banger
Some of it's
because
good,
it's
some of it's
like
good.
God like makes them go eat a bunch of dead birds and they all die of poisoning and
Yeah,
weird shit like that. But then there's like this one book, like one part of the Bible where it's agonizingly explaining the tent that they have to
yeah,
build to house the
yeah,
Ark of the
yes.
Covenant. And you're
Oh my
like, ooh,
god, why is there so much detail here?
yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing too is remember how prevalent the story of the Tower of Babel is when you're
Yes.
kids?
Yeah,
In
totally.
the
It's like in
actual Bible,
it's like a
it's like
minute long. Yeah,
this much
it's an
text.
excerpt. Yeah.
What I'm going to read now is actually the entirety of the mention of Tower of Babel, unless it gets brought back up.
Yeah.
I did kind of fall off. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch tower with pyramid. And whenever it
Ooh.
says, and whenever it says God, I will say an alien. And whenever it says Lord, I will say the aliens.
Did you
This
already do this? Like, did you already go through and write this, or are you
no,
winging
I'm gonna
this?
read it and
Oh my
probably
god.
fuck
Okay.
up.
Okay.
So
I was just gonna
okay.
say.
Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as they migrated from the east, they came upon a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And then they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. Then they said, come, let us build ourselves a city and a pyramid with its
Did
top
it.
in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we shall be scattered abroad. Switching pages. Upon the face of the whole earth. The aliens came down to see the city and the pyramid, which mortals had built. And the aliens said, look, they are one people and they have all one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do. Nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language there so that they will not understand one another's speech. So the aliens scattered them abroad from there over the face of the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore, it was called Babel, because there the aliens confused the language of all of earth. And from there, the aliens scattered them abroad over the face of all the earth.
Right. So
Like
the
that's
yeah,
all of
that
what it says about the Babe of
yeah,
Tower of
the
Babel.
Tower of Babel. That's it. Right. Yeah. So the yeah, it's interesting. Like, so in the Bible, that is supposed to explain why there's like different languages and different kinds of
Mhm.
people over the planet, right? But like, let's also keep in mind that the pyramids were built well before that was written,
Yeah. And oh,
right?
Billy Carson,
Yeah.
his explanation of why there's different races of people is not because we moved to different parts of the earth and evolved that way or basically adapted our that way. He's saying that the breakaway civilization, when they made the hominids or whatever, they would interbreed with them to give like their intelligence to them, kind of like in the Bible, how God put his breath into mud and made
Right.
Adam. Read the
Right.
Bible again. It's
It's
fucked.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I'm
anyways,
gonna listen to the Bible like you on
yeah,
tape.
the different breakaway civilization aliens, each one of them were like different looking people. So they would the
Right.
group of people that they interbred with, like
They made them in their image, if you
yeah,
will.
so basically one of the aliens was Asian people, one of the aliens was black people, one of the aliens was white people, and then that's why they're all different. So that's why. Oh, and after I read that story of Babel, I was like, so wait. Every time I read the Bible, it just makes me pissed off at God, Old Testament God, because it's like the
Uh,
people,
this week on the Dale Show, Dale gets angry at God.
yeah. So
It's-
it's like the people, they're like, they come together in the desert and they're all like hanging out and they're like, hey, you know what? We should build a tower so that we don't like lose touch with each other and we can
yeah,
all hang out. And then like God comes down, he's like, whoa, 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 these people are hanging out. We can't have
we can't
that.
have that.
Spread them out. They might do great things and make themselves live great, and we don't
Right.
want them to have as much power as us. So we're just spreading them out through all the earth.
Yeah.
So Billy Carson, the reason I like was thinking of the Tower of Babel is Billy Carson saw that, and what he was thinking was this breakaway civilization that had interbred with humans saw that they were working together and getting too powerful,
Yeah.
and they got afraid that they would overthrow the breakaway aliens or whatever, which could have actually happened. Like that might be the thing that destroyed the pyramids was the people working together. I'm just gonna write us if
Okay.
somebody wants to write a screenplay right now
Yeah.
of these like human people banding together and trying to fight the aliens, and at the way they beat the aliens is they break their pyramid, and then they're able to like build technology, but it also at the same time, even though they win, it curses humans that they have to be separated over all the earth. That'd be
Interesting.
wild.
That would be super weird. That would, actually, I'd watch that
That'd be
probably.
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay. So all that sweet stuff aside, back to the shafts.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's such a child. So
You
Christopher
are
Dunn,
China Child.
he was saying the shaft on the Queen's Chamber. Remember how I was saying it was 5 inches from
Yes.
going into the Queen's
4
Chamber?
inches.
No, it's 4 inches tall.
Oh, 4 inches
The
tall. Gotcha.
shaft
The
in
shaft. Yeah. Yeah. In the
hey,
Queen's Chamber is different size. Right.
it's hard to keep our shaft
Sorry.
separate.
The king's shaft is narrower. The
Yeah.
queen's shaft is thicker.
Well, it's
Wider.
actually
Girthier.
I don't know the size of this shaft,
Right.
but
Right.
I
Right. Right.
just know it stops 5 inches before it gets to the Queen's Chamber,
No.
and
It's
that
usually what
last
happens with
five
me.
that last 5 inches is actually porous limestone block. So what Christopher Dunn was saying was to like control the flow of the water, because if you because he Christopher Dunn was saying that they would fill the shafts into the Queen's Chamber with these chemicals,
Right.
and they would go into the Queen's Chamber, and then it would make hydrogen, and then they would blast that out of the King's Chamber shaft, and that's how they would like. And then um what was the other guy? Fuck, I forgot his name. I just drew a blank.
Christopher.
Yeah, Christopher.
Oh, Christopher Dunn. Sorry. And the other
No,
guy
what was the
was
other guy? Billy Carson.
Billy Carson.
Billy Carson was saying that they would put water in the Queen's Chamber and add electricity, and then the hydrogen would bubble
Would
off.
boil. Yeah.
But anyways, this limestone, what that would do is it would control the flow rate, because basically, if essentially, if you just
Right.
filled up the shaft with water or chemicals, it would just come shooting out and
Right.
flood the Queen's Chamber. But if you put like a 5 inches of limestone, it would seep out at a controlled rate.
Yeah.
And yeah. And so
Interesting. Huh.
what they were saying was they would, and supposedly there's like rock bins and shit that were in the pyramid or are in the pyramid, and they would put they would be used to catch the water and stuff.
Isn't that going theory that like those rock bins are like booby traps and stuff?
Yeah, and they were like supposedly the tombs and stuff,
Tombs. Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
dumb, but
Yeah. Interesting.
yeah.
Huh.
So that's all the stuff. That's all the stuff I had written down.
Wow.
Is there anything that I missed or fumble fucked my words over?
No. So for me, it's kind of an interesting theory that it's like
Mm-hmm.
so you're I'm just trying to draw your parallel for you
Yeah.
and sum it up. So effectively the pyramids were a ancient they were saying that the pyramids were like an ancient communication chamber with the
They're like a ham
aliens.
radio.
Like a ham radio made of bricks, an
But
ancient ham radio.
it was actually dual purpose. So the
Right.
ancient pyramids were like the place that would make the energy to like run society. So it was a
Yeah,
power
yeah, yeah.
plant, and it would shoot the electricity through the air, and then you could gather the electricity with the obelisks. But it was also the ham radio that would signal go, so you could basically like radio back to Persei 8 or wherever these
Yeah,
guys
wherever they
came
are.
from.
Yeah, Percy,
They're like,
Omicron
"Hey,
Percy.
we're just fucking hanging out in the desert."
Yeah,
And then they see the guys building the pyramid, and they're like, "They're building a fucking tower. They're gonna get
yeah,
too much control." And they blow them
yeah.
up.
And they're only speaking one language. Let's go down there and
Yeah,
fuck shit up.
I wonder what that language was.
Aramaic.
No, because they
What
maybe
the what
or
did they write on the
Sumerian.
Sumerian? Yeah, yeah.
What if it was binary? They're just
Beep,
like
beep, 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 beep,
beep
beep,
bop beep
beep,
bop
beep,
bop
beep,
bop bop
beep,
beep.
beep,
Yeah,
beep, 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 beep,
yeah.
beep, beep.
It's just fucking like 111 0 0
Yeah,
1 1.
yeah, yeah. I doubt that it was binary, simply because it's a machine code and it's not like,
That's true.
because we as hominids, we're technically kind of hominid. We're hominids, right?
Yeah,
We make
I
like
think
organic noises.
that's
Binary is
true.
very, very much a mechanical noise. But I mean, who the hell knows? I don't know. I wasn't there.
Yeah,
Sure, maybe the Tower of Babel is a binary code sending machine to speak to the alien
yeah.
machines in the future and or the past.
I
Yeah.
read a novel that the base language of it was called Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson. Such a good book. It's kind of dated because there's some references in it that are the 90s. And what it was saying was that the root language of everything was binary. So that like people in the book are on virtual reality
Right.
and somebody was able to go and if you're in virtual reality and your language is binary, then somebody can hack your brain and basically put you in a
Oh
coma
man.
or a snow crash.
Right.
Now that was one of the plots of the book. It was really good. That made me
You know
really
what?
scared of virtual reality.
I think I retract my earlier statement about language being organic. I was thinking about like the beginnings and the origins of languages, and I don't know, I haven't thought about this shit in forever, but um, what if it's a series of grunts as how you started
Mm,
communication, right?
yeah,
Holy shit, I can make this noise with my mouth, but what does mean? Right?
yeah.
Is yes and is no, right? So technically that's
Yeah,
binary, right? And three grunts is, I don't know, something else, right?
yeah, like binary. Actually, Morse code is binary because it's short and long, so there's only two.
Yeah.
So it's like beep or bip and beeps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. Well,
Oh,
fuck me then. I'm wrong. So
yeah. What if cavemen could speak? What if? Okay, here's another great
oh,
idea
here
for
we
a
go.
fucking
Okay.
movie.
Yeah.
So you get a movie, it would be like World War II timeline shifting, where um they have a time machine. So somehow, like how in World War II, one of the secret codes that they had was like First Nations people.
Navajo. It was Navajo
Yeah,
code. Yeah.
yeah. What if they did the same thing but with cavemen?
Oh my
Because
God.
they could like read. Anyway, that was just somehow, since cavemen could speak in Morse code with grunts, and then you just add like World War II shit in there plus a
Yeah.
time machine, and it's gold.
Spice it up. Spice it
You
up.
give me cavemen, World War II, time machine. I don't even care how many plot holes you get. I would watch that movie.
I would watch that. I would watch it.
I would watch
Yeah,
the shit out of that. Even
for
I would
sure.
watch a 7 season TV show about that.
Seven seasons in a movie TV show.
Yeah,
Yeah, perfect. Love it.
even if it was as bad as Lost at the end.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what was the end of Lost? I didn't really watch it, but what was the end? I remember the reveal. It was like, and it was all a dream. And did they pull that bullshit?
No, it was so dumb because it was like you had I can't how many seasons was Lost? 6?
I think so. Yeah.
So, anyways, for the first 5 seasons, they're building up all this mystery about what happens on this island. And it's like, and then at some point, and then the last season, it was like some of the people got off the island and went back, but they were the whole time they were trying to find the island again. But the last season was they were all dead in a church, but it wasn't
Oh,
that they were all dead the whole time they were on the island. It was just they were all dead and they were meeting up after they had lived their lives. So it didn't explain everything that happened on the island or like why they stole that guy's kid or anything. And it was so annoying. They were just like tied it up or like what was the company that was delivering stuff
that's what I'm
for
looking for. I was literally looking that up right now.
oh
I'm trying to
yeah.
figure out what the brand was called because it was on everything. It had like,
Yeah. God, that show had so much promise.
it
And then
did.
I think they just wrote themselves into like a
I
Gordian knot or something.
vaguely remember the logo.
Yeah. It was like a hexagram
Yeah.
or hexagon. Yeah, anyways, yeah, that show. Oh. It was so good for the first couple episodes because our first seasons because you had no idea what was going on and it was just such a mystery and then they just fumble fucked it.
Oh my god, this is gonna drive me nuts. I need to know what that is because
Can't
it
you
was
just
like it was
Google the
I did, but it's like it keeps directing me to like, did you lose a package? Did you lose a package?
let me see.
You're gonna have to duck duck go this shit
Oh,
because I can't Google it.
the company
It started with an H, I think.
in the show Lost. Let me see. It just says
I
okay,
know
let
it's
me
fucking
see.
impossible to find it. I don't know what
Oh my
happened here. This is
god.
ridiculous. Today on the Dale Show, Dale
Well, it
and
just
Devin.
talks about how Disney's the company that made it.
No, I know. It's driving me
Oh,
nuts.
Dharma Initiative.
Dharma Initiative. That was it.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Mm, yeah.
Was that it? Yes, that's what it was. Dharma. Right. Yes.
Oh, it's an acronym. I didn't know that.
Oh, is it? What does it stand for?
Department of Heuristics and Research on Material Applications.
Do you remember the
Hmm.
website T Fury? It was really popular around the same time when this TV show came out.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a bunch of these weird Dharma Initiative T-shirts, and that's how I really remember the logo. I wonder if that's
Yeah,
even a website still.
dude. Somebody should take the source material and just they should reboot the Lost series and do it right.
And do it
I'd
right,
be
yeah,
so happy.
yeah, that would be really good.
That
And do it
only
right, give
ended.
it the credit. It's like one of those things where the contract is up and the writers just sort of cash in. They're like, "Yeah, fucking down."
Yeah.
And a good time was had by all. Said, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I kind
That
of
it? Tight hour?
yeah. It's toy hour.
Minus 5 to 7 minutes of emergency
Jeff's
systems
break.
checks.
We did start late, but yeah, no, I'm good. I just wanted to come in discuss. I kind of feel like I talked through everything too fast, but I was so horny to talk about pyramids and stuff.
No, man, I love the pyramids. So you can talk about
Oh,
that
dude.
anytime, and it's my favorite. I
Okay.
love
So what are we gonna tell your son now?
that.
Are
Oh
you
my
gonna tell
god.
your son?
Vibrations, stairs,
Okay.
levels.
So the problem is you're gonna have to go to your son and you're gonna be
Yeah.
like, look, I can explain how they built the pyramids, but first I'm gonna have to set up who the Anunnaki are,
Yeah.
what a breakaway civilization
You have
is.
about 12 hours of Dad and Dale's show to
Yes.
watch so to fill you in on this. And then
Okay.
you'll be up to speed.
Are do you understand how DNA
Yeah.
works and RNA
How far
pairs?
along are you in Science 9 right now? Yeah. Do you know what a hominid is? Okay, so the Anunnaki, Dad, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? Look,
Do you know who the
go
Sumerians
to your
are?
room. Yes. You go to your room and don't you come back until you've watched at least 20 hours of Joe Rogan. Oh my God. Dad, I don't want your stupid dad stuff.
Okay, there's this guy named Zachariah Stitchin.
Yeah. Oh my God. Look, I need you to do a small essay on David Icke and report back to me, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You like soccer, right? Well, here, I got this guy, David Icke. Look him up. He's former professional footballer, and then read the
There
next
you
part.
go.
That's
Yeah, and then he got really sore wrists and had to
yeah,
quit playing.
and he couldn't play, so he had to find other means of employment by any
Okay,
means necessary.
let's revisit the question.
Okay.
Have you changed? Okay, I'm not saying what makes the most logical proof on how they built the pyramids or what you can explain with the cold hard facts that we have because
Oh, you know I love
we
cold
don't
hard
have
facts.
any.
Yeah.
Just give me your best guess. It can be as crazy as you want, but it can't be just aliens built it.
No, man, I
Because
hate to
the
say this, but I think your
aliens.
vibration theory might have something to do
Oh,
with
really?
this.
Yeah. And the other,
I never thought about it that way. That makes a
oh,
lot of sense.
oh,
Okay.
oh.
Oh, Dale's having is
Another
that your
thing,
O face?
yeah, another thing Christopher Dunn was talking about was he was talking about underneath the pyramid, there is like a piston mechanism because it's like the sort of resonance thing, like how you can like if you bang on stuff and and it like because it kind of makes stuff vibrate. And if
Yeah,
you match the resonance and you keep doing it, you can make things
that's
crumble.
how music works.
Yeah, and
It's like
he
how
was saying one of the examples is when a whole platoon of foot soldiers march over a bridge, they have to start marching at different steps, otherwise they would vibrate and
they'll vibrate the bridge and it'll wiggle and they'll
yeah.
twist.
So he's saying there's a machine that does this, or there was something that does this underneath the pyramid. And he was had this like weird idea of how it was like releasing ions that are tensioned in the earth and they would rise up or whatever. But what I'm thinking is it's somehow because one of the only way that it makes sense for me that they built the pyramid was if they used like either sound or this resonant vibration pounding thing to make the stones soft, and then they could have carved it with their copper tools easy peasy.
God, copper's
So
so soft though too, right?
yeah, but if you have granite and it has crystals in it, and you like do either sound or like padding the
Okay,
side.
you're starting to sound like a millennial woman.
Yeah.
It's
So
crystals. The crystals. I'm sorry,
you
that was
do
very bad.
this and then it does somehow resonates with the block, and then you can just
Uh,
cut it way easier.
I think I'm. Yeah. Uh, if you follow science fiction
Hmm.
at all, there's some story arcs with vibro weapons in
Yeah.
certain mythologies, right? And like
Hmm.
that they're powerful enough to like counteract the effects of energy weapons, right? Like
Yeah.
because energy and vibrations are very similar things, right? So you
Yeah.
but vibrations require a uh like a solid object that moves. Okay, I'll put it even more simply and not in
Yeah.
science fiction realm. I live next to the train tracks.
Yeah.
And when the train starts up, and I think about how long a train is, it's a few kilometers long. And when it starts
Mm.
up, I hear it go all the way across,
Oh, I
and
love
then it
that
goes
noise.
boom, and it vibrates, and my whole house moves.
Oh,
My
crazy.
whole house shakes. Like the
Hmm.
windows go like it's a split second, and I've gotten
Yeah.
used to it now, so I barely notice it anymore unless I'm downstairs.
Oh,
If I'm
crazy.
upstairs, I don't feel the vibrations at all
Yeah.
because it's gone by the time it gets up to the house through the house, right?
Oh,
But when
yeah.
I'm in the
Yeah.
basement and I'm sitting on the couch, I can the window beside me shakes. It goes,
Oh, wild.
but when we're upstairs in our bedroom, because we live in a townhouse and it's 3 floors, when
Yeah.
we're on the top floor, you don't feel the shake. You can hear the
Okay.
train do that clackle thing, but you don't
Yeah.
feel the vibration. So
Maybe it's just
so now I'm thinking
the
about
cement in the
the
basement.
cement, yeah, right, or something in the foundation shakes a
Yeah,
little
the
bit, right, because it's
foundation.
connected to the ground directly. So
Yeah.
so I'm trying to make mental. I'm doing mental gymnastics to try to get to like how they put the bricks up on the things. But if you think about the amount of throw people at it, right? That whole
Yeah.
adage of like when you have a ton of impoverished slave nation
Yeah.
within you and you have that control of the people and you would just want like the solution to the problem is to throw bodies at it because life is cheap.
Hmm.
How many people does it take to vibrate
That's a
something
good
of that
point.
magnitude, right? So maybe
Yeah.
they weren't like those the hieroglyphs that they pulled those things from our textbooks in about rolling the blocks of stone along the wood. Maybe there's some pieces missing out of that. Maybe they
Yeah.
had platforms and they were shaking the wood or having hundreds of thousands of people
Mm,
jump up and down and vibrate
that's a good point.
the blocks up.
Yeah.
I'm just
I
like
mean,
I'm just like that's so I put practical magic or practical
yeah.
engineering
Practical
and
magic.
practical magic. I put practical engineering to like yeah, just think of hordes of people standing around jumping,
Yeah.
right? I don't know. But then
Perfect.
if there were that many people doing it, they would have overthrown their captors probably. But anyway,
Yeah.
so there's a flaw in that plan too. But I
Hmm.
was just trying to think like outside the box a little bit. And it hurt to
Yeah.
go to make that leap.
Okay, I gotta end it because the baby didn't go to sleep when we
Oh
started
shit.
this, and
It's my
she's
fault.
up, and I'm her
Vibrations.
favorite person right now,
You are
apparently.
her,
So,
you're everybody's favorite person. Have you met you? You're
hey,
amazing.
oh, thanks, Jeff. Let's
You
end
bet,
right
man.
there.
Okay, cool.
While you lied to everybody and told them I was the man.
Nice. Oh man.
Okay.
Bold
Thanks for
faced.
doing this.
Man, thank you.
Um,
That's awesome. You know I love
yeah.
talking to you.
And then either a couple weeks, well, we can't do it next week because that's Mother's Day. And then I think it's my anniversary. Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
two
it's
or
the
three
May long
weeks.
weekend. Yeah, okay. I'm in.
Then we'll do Tartaria.
Sweet. Okay, I can do a little research on that too. I'm gonna
And
do some
then we'll do some
sneaky research.
reading. Oh, and the mud flood.
Ooh.
Oh,
That's why we had to take a break earlier.
and for some if you want to give yourself some giggles, look up the mud flood on Wikipedia, and
Okay.
they have like they talk about it in such a bitchy tone. It's hilarious.
I love that the editor was just having a rough day that day.
Yeah.
Motherfucking flood.
Okay.
All right, man.
All right.
Okay.
Later all.
Bye.
Bye.